All right. Hey, everyone. Brendan Center here. How are you? Thanks so much for joining me and the whole crew that we've got here for why we own large music collections and how we got here discussion topic today. So first off, I want to say hello to my co-host here, Grant Arthur. How you doing today?
Right. Nice to see you.
All right. Pete Pardo, thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me.
And Phil Aston, how are you today?
All right, great to be here. Thank you.
All right. So I think the title of this is pretty self-explanatory, but we obviously all have huge music collections. Anyone who watches, my channel and the three other channels that we got going on here all know that the curse is real. We are mega collectors. And if you've watched some past episodes, we just did one on Grant's channel about Rock Candy Records. And we all had big collections from them. And yet we're still ordering from them. It seems like we all have outstanding orders. And that's just the way things go. So I wanted to do a topic here where we actually talk about why we have these large collections. I know I've got a specific way of thinking about why it is that I continue doing this, and but also just sort of how did we get here? How did this start for everyone? So I guess I'd like to start off by asking, what was your introduction to music? Was there a particular event or person or something that got you started into this? And so, Phil, we'll start with you. What was your introduction into music?
Uh, in the UK, we had a TV show called Top of the Pops.
Mhm.
So that was what I watched every week, and it was like Slade, T-Rex, The Sweet, all that kind of stuff. And then the big kids at school would be saying, "Phil, you need to be listening to Rory Gallagher and Zeppelin and Sabbath." And I was thinking, well, who are they? So it kind of started there. Now you said, well, those of us that have huge record collections, we be careful. One of the things you put in your preamble was, what's it like having a lot of records or CDs when you live with other people in the house? So, for some of you, you might be sitting in a room that's completely airtight from anyone else who's in your home. But my lovely wife is just out of shot. So when we talk about large collections, mine's completely normal.
That's right. Yes.
So's
Well,
mine.
most people have the numbers that I might
Right,
have.
right. But
Yeah,
not
I only
absolutely,
have a couple
absolutely.
things.
But what's interesting is you said when it started, I know, Brendan, you also say you're the youngest person in the room. So I'm the oldest person in the room. I've been buying records for 53 years. But
great.
even if I count back from where we are now in 2025, that's 636 months ago. But I've got more than 636 albums. And that's 2,756 weeks. I seem to have more than that. So, and that, even if I bought two a week over the last 53 years, that takes me to 5,500. And I seem to have more than that. So something obviously happened because it wasn't in the 70s because I didn't have much money. I was a teenager. So I was buying like one a month, two a week. So I was trying to work out what happened
Yeah.
when all of a sudden everything went exponentially. No matter what I did, I ran out of space. And I think it's the arrival of the CD,
Mm,
the arrival of the price change in CDs, the arrival of box sets,
mhm.
the arrival of me doing what I do now on YouTube, which seems to have made me see things very differently. And in the UK, there's a marketing term that record shops use. They call it 50 quid bloke. Must be like, if in America, you'd probably call it $100 bloke, probably, or $50 bloke. And this is where you go into a shop, and I have no intention of buying anything. I've just wandered in to a record store, and I end up coming out with stuff I had no idea I even needed. And it's usually, like we were saying before we went live, Grant, you pick up one, but I'm here now, so I'm going to pick up three, four, five, six, seven, eight. So that obviously later on in the 90s and the noughties, something's happened where my album music collection has just expanded exponentially
Yeah.
to being slightly above average in size.
Right. Only slightly above average.
Slightly, yeah, yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
That's all we're willing to admit today, slightly above average.
yeah, slightly above average, yeah.
But you're
Yeah.
you're you're right, Phil. I mean, we were talking about this before we went live on here, and all of us are saying that if you go into a record store, we're probably almost never going to buy one thing.
No.
No, I go in most cases not looking for anything. I might have a list of stuff that's like, oh, the next time I visit a store, I will specifically look for these artists to see if there's anything that flew under the radar. But I like to just go into record stores to go into record stores and peruse. And I got to peruse top to bottom. So
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I'm most cases always going to find more than one thing when I go in and peruse.
At least I always hope so.
Yeah, right.
Because I'm always going, it's the thrill of the hunt for me.
Yep.
Yeah.
Because I want to go into that record store not knowing what they have, but
Yeah, yeah.
hopefully there'll be something in there, a rarity, something that I've been looking for. I don't want to take the easy way out and buy it on the internet. Come on. That's not for real men don't do that. Real men go out and hunt. So I want to go out and find it in the wild. Also want to find it for a good price because I want to. But anymore, those days are gone. I still have hopes. Sometimes something will pop up like that.
Mhm.
But back in the old days, the 90s was prime for that. When
Mhm.
people were buying CDs, Bill Clinton was office. The I always bring up Bill Clinton because I remember when Bush got into office, the whole eBay thing, the whole record industry changed. I swear to God it did.
Really?
I remember it. It like
Okay.
switched overnight. But when Clinton was in office, people were buying and selling. You could go on eBay and wheel and deal and make some money. You could buy something cheap in the bins and turn it around. It was fun.
It was
Those
the
days are
Wild
kind of
West.
gone. I went on a tangent. I don't even know what I'm talking about. But what I'm trying to say is I want to go out and do the thrill of the hunt. I want to find something when I'm out in the wild.
No, I hear
Do
you.
Grant, do those records, the ones that you find that you weren't
Yes, sir.
expected to find that you're hunting, do they stick out then in your collection as events? Like you remember
Yes.
this, yeah. So
Well, I
of all
have
the
to see
stuff that
them.
arrives, that they stick out like a
As I look over to where all my CDs, it looks a lot like what Pete has there. I'd have to go over and look. But yes, if I picked it up in the bin in the wild, I can go back in time and go, oh, yeah, I got that in about maybe 92 in the wild.
Yeah.
I still can tell you what I bought at the store and what I bought online.
Yeah.
yeah,
It's
it's
sick.
like
It's sick.
this is a Zephyr album with Tommy Bolin on. And I've got this on CD a couple of times because that's something else to talk about. Why I've got so many copies of things. But this is a special one because I've been searching for this. This is before CD. This is before the internet. I've been searching for it for decades, and then I just stumbled across it in a second-hand shop, and it was a promo version. And so I can remember exactly the what time it was, the time of the year, the shop itself, who served me, everything about it.
Yes. Yeah.
I've got it on CD now in a deluxe edition. I can't remember when I got them, but I can remember exactly when I got this one. And I've still got. I never took the price tick off because it was £30 going back to the late '80s, and that was the most I'd spent on a record. It was such a lot of money, but I remember that because I'd been hunting for it
Mhm.
over the wild
And isn't that the
plains of
most memorable when you stumble upon something you've been looking for ages?
yeah,
There it
yeah,
is,
Yeah.
staring
yeah,
in the
And
face.
then
You
you're
know what
like, you're elated because you're
yeah,
like, "Ah,"
yeah,
Oh,
you know,
absolutely.
the
yeah,
God shine down. There's like a
yeah.
That's a
spotlight on
story
it.
that you can tell over and over and over again, right?
Right.
And
It
I
never
have,
gets old, right?
yeah, and
Well,
I have told it over and over because it was such a shock to find it after searching for it and sending off for lists in Record Collector magazine. Has anyone got this? No. Because you couldn't even hear things back then before the CD. You couldn't even say, "Can anyone do a copy for me?" Because these things just didn't exist. Whereas now you can find literally anything. But so yeah, I remember that. But I've got two copies on CD, and I can't remember when I bought those um, at all.
I do
Just
think
depends.
the memory of finding these things and that what goes along with it is part of the reason, the enjoyment that comes out of it and what continues the music collecting happening. We're always looking for that sort of next find, that next score. It's why I held this up just a little bit ago, the EP, the debut EP for Rat. I had looked for this and looked for this for years, like 30 years, and just never came across one. And then one day I walked into a record store and there it was, and it was a good deal and it wasn't astronomically priced. It was like a regular price CD on the wall. It's got a cutout in it, but I don't even care about that because
They're all cutouts.
I know I was going to say that's just part of it, right? So I've had a vinyl copy forever, but being the CD fanatic, I wanted one on CD. Usually it'd be the
100%.
other way around. People that have it on CD want to find the vinyl copy, but this is one of those ones. And now it just sits like Pete displays on his racks facing out so that I can look at
He
it.
just stares at it.
And every time I see it catch it out of the corner of my eye or something, it puts a smile on my face. It's my latest, greatest score from probably about good 6 months or maybe a little longer ago. And I'm still enjoying the fact that I found it and what went through it. And that'll be a memory for me for a long time.
I remember back in the good old days that I keep talking about, you could
Mhm.
find those used. They used to appear in the used bins every now and then, but I haven't seen one in
Yeah,
the used bins
No.
since
forever.
the
I went
early.
on vinyl about last year at
Yeah.
a little place in Beacon, New York. It's like a restaurant bar, but they also sell records, and they had a copy of that original.
Yeah,
It was
yeah, I've
really
got
nice.
it. I've got it on vinyl, but I've never found one on
Now
CD.
that hasn't been re-released, right?
No, it
No.
hasn't.
Because
And
when I saw Stephen Piercy on the 80s cruise a year ago March,
it's
he
awesome.
said he retained the rights to it and
Yeah.
he's in the process of reissuing it.
Wow.
Yeah, he's got a lot of irons in the fire. He's talked about a double or a double studio album that hasn't come out for years and years, and a new compilation album of old Rat rarities that hasn't come out that he signed to Golden Robot Records for. So I don't know what's going on over there
I
in
don't
his
know.
camp, but yeah. So I gave up. I was really excited when I heard it was going to get reissued, and when I came across this one, I was like, forget it. I'm just buying this. But I brought this out also in terms of to get us back to the sort of why do we collect thing, because you can't stream this. This is not on
Oh,
like,
really?
yeah, Apple or Spotify or anything like that. So it's one of those things that why do we collect physical media? There's plenty of things I have in my collection that can't be streamed. And so that's always been a big reason, at least as to why I collect. And I'll throw it over to you, Pete. Is there a explanation that can be given for you as to why you continue to collect after all this time? Or is it just a curse and once you got started, you have to keep going?
I mean, yeah, I mean, it got started a long time ago. I still remember like being a kid and collecting 45s, and then
Mm-hmm.
I bought Kiss Alive and Destroyer, and it's just been nonstop since then. And I remember I had a sizable vinyl collection up until like the late 80s. And then I just, you start to run out of room for the bigger things,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
So
yeah,
I
yeah,
just stopped collecting vinyl. Vinyl was looked at as old-fashioned. The
yeah.
CDs started coming out. It got really bad once I started collecting CDs. And I think
Mm.
between, you know, writing for a magazine and then having the websites and, you're buying stuff to cover, the record labels and the bands are sending you product,
Mm-hmm.
and then doing Sea of Tranquility where you're talking about catalogs all the time. You got to fill holes in catalogs, investigate new catalog. And Grant and I talk about it all the time when we do ranking the album shows together. We're like, all right, you want to tackle this band? Neither one of us have any albums, so we go out and get them, and all of a sudden there you have like a
But I like
7 or 10 album discography to talk about, and then that gets added, and you're doing this every week, right? So
Right.
now I look around and I have CDs everywhere, and but I love it.
I
Yeah.
It's like
know.
because I love having them and I love, looking through them and
I've got that.
of course you do. So yeah, it's there are people I talk to people all the time, who are in my age group and they're like they stopped buying
Yep.
anything physical years ago and they come in here and they're like, "Oh, why don't you just get rid of it all?" I'm like, "No, this is like one of the few things in life that really gives me pleasure." And I take great stock in and going and it's like having a library of books, right? I mean, in the old days people
Yes.
had libraries, right? Well, this is our library here.
Right.
I, I,
So
I think it's like it's a personally curated art collection.
Mm-hmm.
$100.
It tells your story to you,
Mm-hmm.
and it's very. I mean, we talk about playing our collections, but I think Grant, you might have hinted at it, or it could have been you, Pete, just who said, "I just like to be around it." Sometimes I don't actually. No, you were saying,
I
Brendan, about
like it.
having the CD facing outwards.
Yeah.
I I like to just sometimes be with my collection of music, and
Yeah.
I'll take something off the shelf and I'll read the notes probably for the 55th time, or I just want to go through things. I'm not actually playing anything,
Hmm.
but
I
I
do that
just
often
like
too.
to be with it. I just like to
Off the
be
shelf,
surrounded by
comfortable.
it,
Yep, absolutely.
I
I
will
and
pull
totally agree with that.
you know,
I like to pull things out, all the albums, and like lay them out chronologically and just
yeah, yeah, yeah,
look at the size of the collection and all the albums and
yeah,
compare the album covers. And it's just kind of a like,
yeah.
wow.
Well,
Now
I
that
don't
it,
do
yeah,
that. That seems extreme.
I mean, let's face it, some people buy a lot of shoes,
Yeah.
some people
yeah,
buy a lot of books, some people collect cars, some
yeah,
people collect guitars. Oh, I do that too. Shit, that's not a
Do
bad,
that.
that's not a good example. But everybody
That's
likes to
their
have
thing.
lots of stuff that they are passionate about.
yeah.
Right.
This happens to be it for us, right?
Yeah.
Is our collections a little bit extreme?
Yes.
Yeah, they are, right? But it is a sickness, but it's just amazing how, like, for me especially, like if there's something new coming out from a band I like or a band I'm interested in, I don't even think about like when I should get it. I don't hesitate. I'm like, as soon as I know it's available, I go find it, I order it. It's just it's like that. There's no thought. There's no, oh, maybe I should wait till next paycheck or,
Right.
oh, Christmas is 6 months away. I'll wait. Maybe someone will buy it for me for Christmas. I had a
Yeah.
good friend of mine a couple of years ago. An album was coming out by a band he and I both love. And it was like early in the year or the summer. And he goes, yeah, I think I told my wife that I want it for Christmas. So I'll just wait till it comes out for Christmas. I'm like, that's 6 months from now. It's like
You could be
you're gonna
dead
think
in
about that
six
for the next six
months.
months from now for a $15 album. Just go fucking buy it, man.
Yes.
It's like,
Very true.
yeah,
Well,
it's just stuff
The,
like
th
that.
the
It's just we just can't help ourselves, right?
yeah.
Yeah, the
Well,
thing is, if you do buy online though, it's when and you've ordered all these things that they all inevitably all arrive at the same time, don't they? You know,
the
Then you
card
have 10
will.
things to listen to,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
You're like,
My
how many
exactly.
things
Yeah,
wife's
want to
my
come?
wife has some kind of app and she can keep track of everything that comes to the house.
really. But
Yeah.
without
And
just hearing a big thump.
she'll go, you sure bought a lot last week. I said, what are you talking about? She says, well, I've got this app that shows everything
Actually,
you
what you
bought.
don't realize is she has created a new app saying track Grant's
Yeah,
album
yeah, yeah, yeah.
orders, and so every time you
It's
order something,
tough buying guitars anymore, I'll give you that.
No, you hear them all come through the letterbox, and then Sue will say, "What came in the post? Nothing."
Nothing.
Nothing.
Yeah.
I'll go out and check it and I have to be real sneaky when I go get it. And then I kind of hide it around the
Stick it under your
side.
shirt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But she already knows because she's got that damn app.
Yeah,
So
Yeah.
I'll
yeah,
be
yeah,
doing that and she'll be going,
yeah. That app isn't available in the UK, is it, Grant?
Well, one of the
it's
things,
bad.
talking about buying things and knowing that you want it before it's even hit, I just recently picked up the Bruce Springsteen box set that came out that had 7 unreleased albums. And it's a bit pricey. It's
It is.
$275 on
Wow.
Amazon. So you might think that 7 albums, $150. That's what it should be, right? Well, it's 275. I didn't even balk at the price. In fact, when I placed the order for it, it was 299. And it's just, I've got to have it. I'm a huge Bruce Springsteen fan. It's 7 unreleased albums. I want those albums. This isn't even just like demos, alternate versions. It's not that. It's unreleased albums that were fully realized that he never put out. So I didn't even hesitate. But then
there's no hesitation, no doubts in your mind. It's just like, oh, it's out. I need it.
I
That's
need
it.
it. Absolutely. And there is a 1 CD selections of best of from it. I bought that too. So for me, I've got to have it, right? But then I
Bad.
talk about it on the channel. It's in my music news. Just different things. I'm bringing it up, throughout the 2 months or so that I'm waiting on it. I'm hearing all these people say it's too expensive. They're not going to get it. They might wait until Christmas. And we all know that these things
It'll
come
be gone.
really fast.
Mm.
First
Yep.
runs could sell out. That might be it. It might be done. You might get lucky and they don't sell, and then they've got to really reduce it down. That occasionally happens, but it's very rare. And so for me,
Well,
I've just got to get it right when it comes out.
It's
it's
too
like
sick
that
to be
Robin
waiting on.
Trower box set that Pete showed us. You better get it now, kids, because you might not be able to get it.
Trust
Yeah.
me, you want it. It
Yeah,
is
you
that
do. You
good.
do.
It is
Yeah.
Gotta
that good.
contact Ken.
Yes. Lasercd.com, folks.
Oh,
and
well,
and and Pete, for you, I mean, you're talking about this is something that is a deluxe edition of an album that has archival stuff on it, a live show, and you're now thinking this might be the definitive live album for
Yeah,
them.
so let me talk a little bit about it. I mean, I'm going to do a full, probably by the time this airs, I've already done a full review of it on my channel, but, and Phil has done one as well. But
Yeah.
basically, you know, you have the original mix remastered of For Earth Below. You've got the 2025 stereo mix, which kind of like what they did with Bridge of Sighs, they found the original master tapes and they kept like the extended versions of these songs because on the original album they kind of truncate and do fade outs and things like that. So here all of a sudden you hear like these ending guitar solos, like, whoa, that wasn't on the original album.
Wow.
You get all these cool outtakes and rarities. You get interviews, BBC Live in concert, and then for me, what makes it all worthwhile is you get a full live set from March 1975 at the Shrine Auditorium and Expo Hall in Los Angeles, which has the full headline set from Robin Trower from that tour, which we did not get on the classic Robin Trower live album. Everybody's always complained, myself included, for years, how it's one of the greatest live albums of all time, but it should have been a double album because it's missing a lot of
Yep.
songs. They're all on here, and it's you can tell it's from the same tour, and it's absolutely fantastic sounding. And as I was saying to Phil and you guys earlier, this now becomes, in my mind, the definitive Robin Trower live album, even eclipsing that great single album from all those years ago.
Yeah, I agree.
And you know, and you get all this, you know, great stuff inside in a booklet. And it's just so yeah, this is the reason why we do this for stuff like this.
Ken Golden, take my money. Take my money, Ken.
But I mean, I have on my channel, and everyone must have the same. I'll talk about something that I've just bought or I'm enthusing about, and I'll have comments, people saying it's a cash grab. You know, I'm happy with the one I've got before, and that's absolutely fine because no one's forcing anyone to buy any of this stuff. But there will be some artists where you just think, there are some artists where I think, yeah, that's too expensive, and I don't really necessarily need that. But there'll be other artists where I don't even see the price. I just think that's something that I'm going to have. It'll be like the Made in Japan Super Deluxe Edition, which is coming out. I'll just buy it
Of
Oh yeah.
course.
because it's purple.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
You know, there'll be some people that say that that's ridiculous. I don't need to buy an eighth version. But for me, that's an important release. It means a lot to me. So I shall just go and get it. And I think, I mean, behind me, it's there deliberately, is the Wishbone Ash Vintage Years set, because that's an expensive set. But I always felt they're an important band to me. There was a lot of stuff in there I hadn't got. And it's box sets like that. It's like going away for the weekend with the artist. There's so much to immerse yourself in
Yeah.
with the posters, the giant hardback book, and all the unreleased stuff. But again, some people say, well, that was 260 quid at the time. That's a lot of money. But it depends, you know, because of what again I felt it is, and it's one of my favorite items in my music collection. And it's one of those examples where I'm not going to play anything from it, but I'll just take it off the shelf, take the lid off, and just immerse myself in the stuff, you know, the memorabilia aspect of it.
Yeah.
Well, Phil, you mentioned early on about it being an art collection, right?
It is hand
And
curated by ourselves.
right. And Pete, you mentioned the idea of the library, or one of you
Yep.
guys did, you know. And I think it's a combination of both of those because you can see from behind us, we all keep stuff on display. I keep
Yeah.
that Yes box set because it's a road case and it just looks cool,
Yeah.
right? Yes, I listen to it, but I keep it on display the same way other people have art hanging on their walls, or I don't know, knickknack things sitting out in their living rooms or whatever it might be. But we not only get it because we want the music, the content. You know, Phil, you said it's like going away on a weekend and enjoying this thing with your favorite band. And Pete, I know all day yesterday you were listening to that Robin Trower. So it's like, and I got the Bruce Springsteen box this weekend. So it's all I'm doing is listening to those albums and devouring it and reading up on the artist and pulling out my catalog. And it's an entire envelopment of myself.
A celebration really is what
It
it
is
is.
Yeah. Yeah.
Celebration.
complete
Well put.
re-exploration of albums that I hadn't listened to in a long time because now something in the thing that I've got has made me look at it differently. And I constantly enjoy that. The latest Bruce Springsteen album that came out was a R&B soul covers album that he did. And it didn't click with me. I'm not at all into R&B and soul, but I know he is. He grew up on that and he really wanted to do something like that. So it just seemed out of left field to me. Now I get this box set and I see all these other places that he went and experimented between 83 and 2018. And then those worked for me. It's now said, I'm going to go back and explore this other one because within the context of that, it makes far more sense to me. And me understanding that adds something new to the release. So getting deluxe editions and reading about them, and the more that I know about it, just makes these things even better. And that's one of the reasons, at least, I go out and buy deluxe editions and anniversary editions and things like that, is that new insight that I get makes it even better for me on past releases, no matter how many that I own, like Phil does on, you know, Made in Japan or
Yeah.
the album you were showing before.
Yeah.
So
I remember when you mentioned start when did it all start? I remember when I was at school and we all had like small record collections, and yeah, we knew what was on track 3 on side 2 and who engineered everything. But I remember meeting one of my friend's older brothers, and he had like about 100 albums. And I'd never met anyone who had 100 albums, and I thought, wow, if you had 100 albums, you won't know what to play next.
mhm,
And that became a goal, to think a record collection reaches a point where it's like an adventure, because you suddenly forget you've got something, and
mhm,
you're going through it and you're looking for a specific thing, but then you suddenly find something that maybe you misfiled, and you think, God, I forgot all about that. And you
right.
put that on, and that becomes on your playlist for that week, and you haven't played it for years. That is a thing. Once you get to a collection of a certain size, there is a void of discovery even within your own world.
Oh,
Yeah.
totally, totally true. I mean, there's stuff
Correct.
that all the time that I go back to and I go, oh man, I totally forgot I had this side project by somebody or a solo album
Yeah, yeah.
ran under the radar. Um, on that idea though of Phil, what you're saying, where yeah, at one point when we're teenagers and you're only buying an album, say every 2 weeks when you get your allowance or whatever it
Yeah.
might be, right? And you get the one album and you devour it from top to bottom and you know everything. And you're right, I can still pop on um, Motley Crue's Dr. Feelgood or Appetite for Destruction. I know the riff that's coming next. I know all the
Yeah.
lyrics. I know everything. These albums inside and out. And if I got demos by one of those artists, I would immediately know when something was out of place on it because I devour it that way.
That's a damn shame, Brendan. Damn
I
shame.
know. And I don't necessarily know that about all the stuff because we have such massive, massive collections today. Does anyone here feel ever get overwhelmed by
Yes.
the size, by the fact that we do feel that need to keep
No.
buying? And it's not just, I know for me, it's not just, oh, I have to buy it. It's more a matter of, oh my God, my favorite artist is releasing some deluxe edition with rarities or unreleased material, and I've got to have that. I sometimes feel overwhelmed that I can't keep up with it all.
I get overwhelmed when I accumulate lots of stuff that I haven't gotten to yet. That's overwhelming to me. And I'm looking around and I'm like, yeah, I've got some serious stuff here that I need to listen to, and I just haven't been able to find the time. That is once I do that,
Mm-hmm.
then I'm not as much overwhelmed by the sheer size of the collection. Although like right now I got a purge mode, so I'm gonna go through and try and find stuff that I just really don't need to keep, that I just got, and whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But because space is becoming an issue. But I more get stressed out when I have stuff that I know I need to listen to and I want to listen to, and I just can't find the time to.
Yeah,
Yeah.
don't
and
worry
it's and
about it.
it's listening to it like you used to listen to stuff.
Yeah, and
Because
that's
if
hard
you
too, right? Yeah.
yeah, because if you go into review mode, you can find, if you've got so much stuff around you, you start to listen to it and try and make notes on the first wave, and really think, no, this isn't what I should be doing here. I should be literally giving the artist the respect and just putting this on,
Mm-hmm.
and that's it. I mean, I bet many of us have done this as well. You buy lots of stuff because you popped into a shop and you didn't know what you were going to go and get, and you got it, or lots of stuff arrives, and you listen to something, you think, nah, this isn't really this isn't really doing it for me. Could be because you were playing a totally different genre before you put this specific album on. So you
Mm-hmm.
file it away, and then you rediscover it a year later, and you think, God, this is good.
I
Because
want a time
you know,
machine so I can go back to when I'm 13 and
Yeah.
listen to stuff when everything was brand new and shiny and you really heard something and you had like a religious experience because it's
You
so
had no job, you
new.
had no family, you had
Yeah.
nothing else
Yeah.
but that, right?
Yeah.
Oh,
That's
oh, I
right.
want this record. Oh no, I have to pay a bill. I don't I want to go back when it's pure, innocent, and music just took hold of you. And you can't do that,
It's
Do you
hard.
not
It's
have
hard.
that happen at all, Grant? I mean, I think you do occasionally when you find something like a Rock Candy Records or maybe one of those ones you just got from Australia.
Well, Aviary, I had
Yeah,
an out of body experience.
that's what I mean. And that you didn't know about when you were a teenager, right?
No, I wish I had.
Right. But my point with that is I don't know. I think you have, but I think we all still have them. It might not be as often. I mean, when I was a kid, and the first time I heard Led Zeppelin 4, and it blew my mind, and some of these other iconic albums that somebody's saying, you've never heard of Led Zeppelin, and they pop this thing on, and then your mind is blown. You were so young, you just hadn't been exposed to it. And that doesn't happen often with us because we have such big collections and we are dialed into so much within the music world and having,
I think listening habits have a lot to do with it. Like
yeah,
when because I think Phil hinted at it before, is dedicating time to just sitting down and listening to something. I mean, how much, I don't really have a lot of that kind of time much anymore. I'm always doing something else, but I find like my listening habits have changed. So now when I really have that time to just dedicate to listening to stuff is either at the gym or in the car when I'm by myself and I'm away from here and everything that's going on here. Because of late, sometimes I'm like at the gym working out and I'm listening to something either that's fairly new or something I haven't heard in a while. And it just makes me fall in love with it all over again or for the first time because I'm literally just listening. Yeah, I'm doing stuff, whatever it is I'm doing, but it's by myself. I'm in a zone and that music becomes the driving force to whatever it is I'm doing. Same thing in the car.
Well, how
So
many
again,
people, well, but how many people here can just sit on the couch and not do anything and just become
listen,
one with the music, either
I'd
have
never do
headphones
that.
on or listen on your big system and no
Yeah,
one
like you used
bothers
to.
you and you
Yeah,
just
very
like you
rare.
used to.
It's
yeah.
very rare.
I mean, we
And
all,
all I'm doing now pretty much is like Pete goes, well, we could do that T-Rex catalog. Well, since I don't have any of it, okay. So I have to I'm not listening for, well, I guess it was pleasurable, but it's not like it's for,
It's an
this is
assignment. You're
work.
doing it for work.
It's an
It's
assignment.
not
Yeah.
work. This is not work though.
yeah, but there's an aspect of this that is, and I will say, one, we've all created music channels because of our love for music
Yeah.
and our big collections. And I don't know, I looked at it and said, wow, I can finally use my big music collection and all the useless knowledge I had stored up here about these bands for something. So I start the channel for that. But there is a side of this that's like, the new Bruce Springsteen box came this July or June 27th. So that's why I keep talking about it. But it's like, I had to review it. It's posted right now. It's up on there. And of course, I wanted to dive through and listen to everything, but I also had to do what you said, Phil, which is I got to take notes on it on the first couple listens because instead of living with it for a few weeks, that really needs the time to be given to that.
Yeah.
We have to have those reviews done and up and posted, and you can't wait weeks and weeks to get those
Well,
things.
that's the other tangent here, right? Because the demands from our audiences are that they want to see us talk about these albums the day they come out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we don't always have that luxury. And in addition, and I don't remember who said it here, it's like you want to dedicate the time to give whatever it is the listens and to digest it like it deserves to be, not just, and
100%.
I'm as guilty as
Yeah.
anybody else. When I've got a stack of 20 new CDs sitting here, there are sometimes I listen to something once or twice. I got to review it because I have 10 other things I got to get to. But there's sometimes you want to say, you know what, Robin Trower, I want to give this the time it deserves. And if it's going to take an extra week after release day, people are going to have to wait because I think it would be better for them, the viewers, if I have an honest and fully digested take on whatever it is before I bring it to them and talk about it on air. Because I think just doing a 4 minute quick review that really sounds like I don't know what I'm talking about isn't really good for the artists themselves or the album. So it's very difficult because I've seen it tons of times from my viewers when like an album's release date. And I'm seeing comments, Pete, how come you haven't reviewed blah, blah, blah yet? And I'm like, I just got it yesterday.
Right.
Well, it's en route. I haven't gotten it yet. It's like,
Yeah.
well, why are we still waiting for this? I'm like, can I have
Yeah.
time to digest it first?
Yeah.
It's hard.
No, damn it, get on it.
Get on it.
You have no life.
It's
Get
like
on there,
they want
review
us
it.
to just listen to it once so we have that review the day of. And it doesn't work that way.
No, it doesn't.
Well, I do want to give everybody an update is that I went to lasercd.com and I have purchased, as I always do during these shows, ladies and gentlemen,
Yeah.
I have purchased
Good
the
man.
Rock
You will
Tower
not
box
regret
set.
that purchase, my
No,
friend.
you won't. No.
It wouldn't be a proper episode if Grant doesn't buy at least
It wouldn't. No.
And
Can I just check, Grant, that you have Bridge of Sighs?
I have the
But-
remaster CD with the bonus tracks.
But not the box set that matches that new one.
I do
so it
not.
looks good on the
No.
shelf. No, you
Well,
don't.
that'll be next for you because
That'll be
once you
next,
get this,
yeah,
you're
yeah.
going to want that. It's very similar.
Is it in print?
Yes.
Should
See, I
be.
can't keep track of all this. I'm always busy looking at all this old. Well, that's old shit. I should know about this stuff.
yeah.
Failing.
Right.
Is it? But it still is in print.
Yes,
it
it is.
only
Okay.
came out last year.
Yeah, and it's
All right, I'll get it.
It's there's a Blu-ray disc with that one. Yeah, it's very good.
Thanks, gentlemen.
It's okay.
One of the things that I always hear a lot I get from people is where we have these large collections is that they say there's no way you could possibly listen to it all.
Oh, yeah.
First and foremost, I've listened to everything I own. There isn't a single album that I have that I haven't at least listened to once, and certainly usually a lot more than that. But this idea that you have to listen to it all the time, or I have to listen to it all every year. And some people have that mentality and they can't understand big collections because of that. But for me, it goes back to that idea of the library. I don't need to listen to it every year. I don't need to listen to it all the time. I need it on the wall for when I have that moment. And in case in point with the recent passing of Mick Rouse, the guitar player from Bad Company and Mott the Hoople, I went down a rabbit hole of all of the blues rock stuff like that and went to my shelf and pulled off Free and Mott the Hoople and Bad Company and then offshoot projects from those guys like other things that Terry Thomas, the producer, did in the 80s because he was part of that.
Yeah,
And
he was great guy.
stuff that Brian Howell did, and then Robert Hart, two other singers that were part of the band. And I just ended up with this massive amount of stuff because I have it from my collections. And so I really got to dive in and enjoy what I wanted to in terms of my celebratory, review and respect of Mick Rouse, even though there was a number of that he didn't play on, but I related in my mind. And so for me, that's part of this. It's the collection, the library, and being able to access it when I want to access it. And I never know when that's going to be.
I think there's a difference between you can be a big music fan, and let's say when this is going back a couple of decades, thinking about before I started to think I have to have everything in a catalogue. So if you're thinking about a band like Yes, and mates would say, "What have you got? What Yes albums have you got, Phil?" I say, "I've got the Yes album, I've got Going for the One, and I've got Relayer." And then, I'd say, "What have you got?" And they'd say what they have.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a certain point, something I crossed a line where then I thought, what have I got missing from this band's catalogue? Because I need to fill out all those gaps.
Yep.
And not everyone does that. Some people say, "Yeah, I like Thin Lizzy," but they don't have everything.
They only keep the albums that they like.
They keep the albums that they like, and they go, "Oh yeah, I don't like that one, so I didn't buy it," and it doesn't matter. But there's something about a line you cross where even if it's an album you don't like as much as some other, you still have to have it because you can't cope with the gap.
Like, Pete, why do you keep Never Say Die if you hate it? Well, because I'm a completist.
Right.
Yeah.
Plain and simple. But there's
You hate Never Say Die.
I do, but I have it.
Have you said that in front of Martin? Because I don't think.
Of course.
I
Took
love
me,
it.
took me 40 years to even accept that, to even play it properly, to be honest. And I saw him on that
One of
too.
my absolute favorites.
Really?
That was my introduction.
Brendan, we know how you operate.
I
You like everything else no one else likes.
Yeah. Your
Hey, I got
doorway
that Bruce
albums are-
Springsteen box. Hey, by the way, that Guns N' Roses CD. Oh, and that Def Leppard album. Yeah.
He's got it right.
I pulled this out to be able to show in terms of this idea of being collectors, right?
Mhm.
So, of course I have to buy or bought, and this was on cassette at the time when it came out. but becoming the mega fan or the collector or just that crossing of the line that you're talking about, Phil, where you end up with multiple copies of stuff. When I found out there was an original album cover that was not on the cassette, the CD, I had to track down a copy of this. And that's a distinction that most music loving people, I won't even necessarily call them music fans, but there's a whole group of fans that don't ever need to do that.
Yeah,
They
no,
have
no
one
interest.
one
Yeah.
copy of it, they don't ever need the other. And
I
for
had
me,
that too back in the day, and I got rid of it.
yeah,
The original album cover release. Yeah,
I don't think I've ever really seen one.
yeah,
I think there are two lines to cross here. The line where you cross where you have to have everything in the catalog because you're completist,
mhm.
and the line where you start to buy things again. That's a different line.
That's
Where
that
it
is
where
that's
that
become
cro
a real problem recently
Yeah,
because I've got
that's a different line when you start
four
buying
and
things
five copies of
again.
something.
Because so it's saying what albums do you have by the band Yes? And it's a different question when you say how many copies of the Yes album do you have?
Yeah,
That's very
well,
different.
Yes is the poster child for this part of the
Yeah.
conversation, right? Like I always
Yeah.
thought, like, how many times have I bought these Yes albums in various formats over the years? And I'm like, at some point, it's got to stop, right? But
Yeah,
then,
it
oh,
has
but
got to stop.
Steven
Yeah.
Wilson's remixing it now. Oh, I guess I got to get that
Yeah.
now.
right, right.
Yeah. How
see
many
that
times
I
can they
don't
put the
care
word
about.
definitive edition?
Well, right, and most people don't, Grant. That's the thing.
Yeah,
I
Yeah.
don't care about. I don't have surrounds. I'm playing my stereo is 1979 Yamaha through 1973 smaller Advent speakers. I don't have all that. I don't care about that stuff, but I do care about like,
remixing.
like what I used to collect, I guess I still do, are those West German Japanese Target CDs, the Warner Brothers CDs, the original
Yeah,
ones with the colorful labels. So I have various pressings of the Doors' first album, the Japanese version, the West German version. I got a whole, I'm not even going to go
See?
into it,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
love
Yeah.
Phil laughing on
but
that.
it's not about sound quality. It's about the way they look.
Yeah.
King
Really,
Yeah.
Crimson
doesn't
Beat,
care about it, and then he
Three
goes,
of a Perfect Pair.
yeah,
Hmm.
They
hmm
were
You
all
just said
part
the
of that
way they look,
original.
right? So the
Yeah. The way
packaging
they
is very
look.
important too, right? So
Yeah.
that
Yeah. Yeah.
also something,
But
yeah.
having the Blu-ray of something, like the Kiss Destroyer, I've never played that Blu-ray.
Well, what's the first band that you had to collect all their albums on?
The
Up until that
Beatles,
point, you were buying just one here or brand new releases or whatever it might have been, and then all of a sudden something clicked, and it was go get
Beatles and Styx,
Beatles and Sticks.
and Foreigner
Okay,
when I
what
was a
about
kid.
what about you, Pete?
I don't know. Rush, yes. Jethro
Mm,
Tull, maybe. Deep
Yeah.
Purple.
Rush.
I don't know. Every one of them. I don't know. It's if I latched onto a band,
Hmm.
like I remember the first time I really started getting into Uriah Heep, and all of a sudden I'm like, oh, I got a million albums to buy, right? And this is when they had a lot of albums even in the early '80s, you know.
Yeah.
So I think every band that I get into, I have to have everything, and eventually I just go and get it all of it. It's just I can't think of any one that started it. That's just been my mentality, like right from
Hmm.
the beginning.
But when I was a
Maybe
kid, when I didn't
Kiss.
have any money, you
That's what
know,
I mean.
Yeah.
When I
Yeah.
was a
Yeah.
kid,
that's how I did. All I would want for like Christmas or my birthday.
yeah,
Here, I need Beatles, please, please me. I need With the Beatles or whatever. I need all those to complete my collection. And that was started when I was 10 years old. I was all
You
about
had no
that.
money, right?
And I
Yeah.
had no
Yeah.
money,
Yeah.
but you know what? I don't know where I got money, but every time I'd get an allowance, I
That's
would go to the damn record store. Of course, you could get things a lot cheaper then. I think I probably got like $5 allowance. I don't remember, but I don't remember ever having any money, but I was able to buy stuff.
yeah. You made it possible, right? So you
But
get
that's
like you discover a band. So I remember discovering like Electric Light Orchestra, and I went and got every album they had up until that point. I think that was when Out of the Blue first came out, right? I got everything that came before it. I did the same thing with Paul McCartney and Wings. I did the same
yep.
thing with the Eagles, with Steve Miller Band, with Kiss, with Deep Purple, with Led Zeppelin. I mean, every band that I discovered, I had to have everything they had up until that point.
hmm,
Thankfully, that was like in the mid late 70s. So maybe they didn't have a lot of albums at that point. But then,
Yeah.
you start discover. I mean, that's the crazy thing about discovering bands now that you never listened to. I remember when I first started listening to Alice Cooper, which was crazy late.
yeah.
See as everything else I listened to. And I'm like, oh, I need to start collecting Alice Cooper albums or CDs in like 1990, 92. And I'm like, look at that catalog you got to go and get, right? But
There's
I
a
didn't give it
lot.
a thought. I was like, all right, well, that's what I have to do, right? It's a mission.
Right.
I don't even
It's a
question,
mission.
right?
Yeah.
It's the thrill of the hunt.
Thrill
Yeah.
of the
We
hunt.
don't go out.
It is.
I'm not a hunter, but we have
We're different
after
kinds of hunters.
billion after however long humans have been on the earth, we hunt. Men need to hunt.
Yeah,
You
but
got to have the thrill of the
that's
hunt
where
is what this is about. And we don't
that's where
have
the
spears and
C
arrows anymore.
that's where the CD box set though really came into its own for
Yeah.
people probably
Sure.
like ourselves, where all of a sudden like you could buy the complete studio albums box set of all these kind of artists, and especially the CD fan, and that's what I bought so many of those. This one, which I've strategically placed. This is
The
Miles
Miles
Davis when I was getting
Davis.
into Miles Davis, and there was like seven. I think there's about 75 albums in that box.
Mhm.
Um, and that was like all of us. You just that's everything. I've got the whole catalog, but it's took me years to go through that because there's so many other things that come in, like the Alice Cooper complete album collection, the ELO one. There's so many of these box sets with about 20 discs in, and so it's that idea of being overwhelmed is you suddenly think I've got to listen to this. I want to appreciate it like when I used to buy one album or two
Mhm.
albums a week and go home and listen to them over and over and over again. I've now got a box set with 73 albums in it. That's 73 days if I want played one a day. And there's other stuff I want to play as well. And actually don't want to listen to 73 days on the trot of Miles Davis.
Right.
I need gaps to with other stuff.
Mhm.
Um, so it is. I think it is these big box sets where you can buy an artist's entire catalog in one go, which have which really have made us go off down rabbit holes in all sorts of different directions. I mean, my taste in music is so wide now and deep because of listening to different things. You know, a lot. I mean, jazz. I mean, I like jazz fusion, but jazz itself was a leap. You know, I listen to quite a bit of soul now, but that's again because of crossover artists who have kind of brought me into that, and pop, all sorts of stuff really. So my collection when I first started was rock,
Yeah.
and I outside of that I didn't venture very far. But even within rock, it went to prog and thrash and death metal and progressive metal, and then it's just gone in every direction possible. And I think that's what makes some of our collections so big, is they just keep going across genres. They just keep plowing their way ahead. They just nothing stops them by going, oh yeah, don't listen to that. Because now I think to myself, but maybe I would like it now if I gave it another chance.
There,
Yeah, your taste can change.
Yeah,
yeah, there are so many things now that I didn't like at the time when they came out, and I bought them, and they go on the wall, and then you pull it out and you go, how did I not like this? How did I not
yeah,
get into it? But my musical tastes have changed to where I'm now open to things that are more jazzy or soulful or
yeah.
whatever. Like you, Phil, I was rock, and I was more specifically glam metal when I started. And so my collection was smaller, and I was only buying in that genre originally. And so I could devour that one thing, spend 2 weeks on it, where the allowance is so small, you can buy one album. And you had to debate for 2 hours in the record store about what that one album,
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Yes,
right?
Yes,
And
I
then you
yes.
go
remember those
home
days.
Yeah, I
and
remember those days.
you
Yeah.
you love that thing to death, playing it, and every day there's a new favorite track off that album that you can't wait to get back to. And it wasn't a favorite track the day before, but now it
No.
is. And so
All
you
right.
you got a good story?
I got a story because you mentioned that. I remember it was 1978 Musicland in Columbus. We were there to visit my uncle. My mom is standing with me in Musicland at the mall at Northland Mall. I've got Beatles 65 and I've got Beatles 6. And I'm going, which one do I want?
And you want both?
Yeah, of course.
I think my mom gave me extra money and I got both.
Good. That's a
But
good.
I couldn't decide which one.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
Oh my
no.
God. How can I go remember that?
It's a
And I
defined
remember
moment.
going to Peaches Records in Morris Road in the late 70s and seeing Damn the Torpedoes on the wall and the big murals that they used to have. And I remember going through the import sections. I remember one day, the same day, I bought Beatles Revolver, the British pressing of Revolver on vinyl, and Eddie Money, uh, Life for the Taking. Bought those both the same day. And I remember sitting in the car and I opened up Eddie Money album, took it out. looked at the sleeve.
Yeah.
But why? But then if I bought something like, I don't know. God, how can I remember that? Because those are when you were young, you take it all in, and those are big moments in your life.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Sure.
They are, yeah.
I mean, look, it's defined everything else in our life. Here we are, years and years on with these huge collections. But I think those moments that we experience that you have these great memories of. I've got ones the same way where I'm in a record store. I used to talk my mom into drop me off at the record store and she'd go do big grocery shopping for our family. We were a family of six, so it'd take her like 2 hours to go do. I'd spend all this time in the record store and she'd come back. I'd be sitting there, like you said,
You'd be there in the same spot.
yeah, debating
Yeah.
on two records, and she might do the same thing. She might, if I was short a little bit of money, go ahead and give it to me so I could get two. And it's just that moment of, wow, I'm going to get both. I don't have to make the decision. Like it's just something in your life that registers with you. These are wonderful moments.
There was something that my dad said when I was growing up. I was buying records and stuff. And he said, when I was like in my teens, I did the same thing, but all that's going to pass. And I kept doing it. Even when I was in college, I kept buying stuff. And he'd go, why are you buying this stuff? You should be out of this by now. But I'd been into this since I was 3 years
Nope.
old. There's pictures of me sitting at the dining room table with my Kenner close and play with all my Disney records all around. But I've always been addicted. It's never subsided. I don't think it's gotten any worse. I just think it's just
Yes, it
the
has.
natural progression that I'm
It's
never going to get
always
out of this.
present.
I like physical media, whether it's vinyl, CDs. It's just my whole philosophy of buying low. That's why I'm buying CDs. But I've never gotten out of it. And I still get excited every time I put something on or something's new.
Yeah.
I still like it. And it's never going to go away. It's not. I'm
Yeah.
doomed.
My
So,
my dad was the same. He said to me when I was starting to buy, I'd got my first job, and he wanted me to save money, and I kept going out and buying records. So they kept thinking about putting how much money I gave them towards the bills up because Phil keeps buying more and more records, and he said, Phil, at one point you're not going to be into this anymore. And I remember I used to go to a rock club. I mean, this is the 70s, and my friend said, "You see that guy over there? He's 35 and he still likes rock music." And he said, wow, someone's that old, because we were like 17, 18.
Right.
Someone that age likes rock music. Because we didn't know anyone older that liked this stuff. Because we looked at our parents and they were listening to Perry Como and, Jim Reeves and everything. So, but now, of course, now we look through the lens of time, no one stopped liking it.
no.
Yeah.
In fact, we like it even more. And we like more stuff than we liked then. So it's become more of a part of our lives, really. And I know we joking and saying it's like a bit of an illness, but actually, it's a very positive thing for mental health. It's as
Yeah.
you get older to have an interest, a passion
Hmm.
that keeps you constantly going forwards and learning new things because we're buying new catalogs of albums and bands. We're learning new things about which musician went to what band, and, some obscure thing they played a bass session on. It our grey matter is constantly being stimulated
Stimulate.
by
It's
new
very
stuff
stimulated, right?
Stimulated
Very
all the
positive.
time.
all the
Yeah.
time,
Yeah.
for
I
new
can't get
music,
those
new
damn
tracks.
T-Rex albums out of my head.
Yeah.
They're
That's
going to be
why
a
I think when
band before
anybody
you
ever
know it.
says, look at Brendan or look at Phil or Grant or Pete spewing out all this useless information about all these bands and albums, it's really not useless at all.
No.
Because
No.
everybody needs to have something that they're passionate about, that they are knowledgeable about, that they can talk about, that makes them feel good. It's nothing useless about it,
No.
right?
No.
Especially not useless to the artist, right?
No,
Because they
not at
No.
create
all.
all this
But
stuff
what
hoping that
but
people
what we
will take
but what
interest
we have here is a community.
Sure.
Everybody that shows up in these chats, everybody's all interested in what we're talking. We're just a bunch of guys.
That's right.
We're just
But
music nerds like everybody else. And
but
Yeah.
it's really,
everybody else in the chat that we always see are all music nerds. We're all here as a community
yep.
and we can all talk about this stuff. That's what's the beautiful thing about this.
Yes, totally
It's
agree.
like the old
Totally.
days when you'd go to Peaches when you're a kid and you'd have all these people, I don't really know anybody my age group or any of my buddies that are around here that have it. They don't do what I do. They can't talk this stuff,
Right.
you know?
That's one of the beautiful things about it. And again, I think why most of us here created the channels
Yes,
that we
totally.
have. I know I did because I didn't have any close friends that were into music that I could talk to about this. And I was okay with it. And none of the girlfriends I ever dated were music nerds or anything. So it was just me. I was just oddball guy that enjoyed music. And then I start the channel and I find out there's all these other great people that are into the same kind of stuff that we are here, and we get to share it. And I've always referred to my channel as a music community.
Yeah.
Finding out that there's more people like us and that we enjoy it. And with the advent of the internet, it's let us find other people that enjoy the same things we do.
Yeah, totally.
I,
Totally.
I often, and it hasn't happened in a while, but I remember like, and Grant can probably appreciate this. Like, we would do like ranking the album shows are very, very popular on Sea of Tranquility. Or that's kind of one of the mainstay shows that I've been doing for a long, long time that really helped kind of spearhead everything that we do on the channel. And I remember seeing comments from folks from time to time where, we're ranking a catalog of like 10 albums or whatever, or however many long it is. And it's an hour-long episode because we're talking about the albums. We're revisiting the albums. We're telling people why they should go out and check these
Yeah, yeah,
albums
yeah,
out
yeah.
and why we have them in the ranking, right? And there'd be people in the comments like, why are you guys taking an hour to talk about 10 albums or 8 albums or 5 albums? Just
Right.
just spew the ranking out. And I'm like, because this community doesn't want to hear us just go, okay, number 10 is this album. What's your number 10? Number 10, okay, your number 9 is it. That's not what we're here to do.
Mhm.
Because for that, you could just go onto a website where people just show you in print format or text format what the ranking is, and you look at it and you go, okay, and you move on. That's
Right.
not what we do here,
Yeah.
right? Because we're here to talk
It,
about
it,
these albums
Yeah.
and describe why we have ranked them the way we've ranked them. And in a sense, for us, we're revisiting these albums all over again and explaining why we have this love for them or not, right? Depending on how you rank them. So
100%.
there's an art to doing this
Mhm.
that I think this community we keep talking about, that's why they come to all of our channels, right? This whole idea of discussing music in depth and sharing in that common passion for it is what keeps people coming back and back and back and back.
Well
and
said.
I
Yeah.
think it's also that because of, as I said, it's like the personally curated art collection. That when you do talk about a ranking, let's say it was Deep Purple, or I talk about Deep Purple album or a Black Sabbath album. I used to think when I first started the channel, well, I'm going to talk about this record, and it's got to be the definitive thing because I won't talk about it ever again. I was so wrong
Oh,
because this
100%, right?
because this music means so much to me, and it's been
Right.
part of my life, and it's popped up in so many different life events that I've talked about some albums multiple times, and each time I do it, it's not the same as what I said before because it
Right.
more stuff comes out. The more you share your love of an artist or an
Mhm.
album, the more you remember from different times you've played it. And then you see the comments, and that triggers something else off, and you think, I'll come back to that. I can think
Yeah.
of another angle to talk about that.
Well,
And it should
Martin
be
and I were.
spontaneous, right?
Yeah,
That
yeah,
Mhm.
yeah,
should be
yeah.
spontaneous. I mean, like we talked, geez, I don't even remember if we talked about it on this episode or before we started taping. I can't remember now. But like we did that Rock Candy episode
Mhm.
fairly recently, and I went and got 4 of the Frank Marino Mahogany Rush reissues that they did.
Right.
I already had them, right? But I had to get the new versions, right? Which makes the old ones, obsolete for me now. And
Maybe.
that started me listening to the whole Frank Marino catalog again. And I've done countless shows on Frank Marino on my channel, but it made me yesterday wanting to do another episode on Frank Marino and the catalog and the genius of him as a guitar player, songwriter, and singer. And that turned into a half-hour episode that was
But that's
just fresh, spontaneous,
Yeah,
very, very fun
from the
for
heart,
me.
from the heart. Yeah.
because you're into it. And a lot of
Right.
these things, I have to be into it. Like some will say, Grant, do a listening party on this. And I'm going, well, not feeling that at the moment. I got to
Right.
feel it.
Gotta
Yeah.
feel it.
And with you at the Frank Marino, it just brought it back to life for you. And it's that, and that's what are the really good shows because you're just into it. The passion shines through.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
And Martin and I were talking about this about album rankings and talking about bands, A lot of shows like you could do an album ranking of Styx like 4 years ago, but you could do
Mhm.
another one now.
Mhm.
And a lot of those people, recent people, might not have ever seen that
The
ranking, and your
original one.
ranking
Exactly.
might change. And
Right.
he said, I don't hey, why can't we do stuff over and over again? Not
Yeah.
all the
Yeah,
time,
yeah,
Right,
yeah.
right, right.
but revisit something.
Sure.
And I think Martin was talking to Anthony Edwards about that, and he says just why not?
Right.
Works for him.
No,
Yeah.
it's true. And I've recently, I mean,
I
some
haven't done that, but
made that comment recently, and I thought, because I used to never try to repeat anything and steer clear and say, oh, I kind of talked about that already. I'm not going to do that. And then I thought about the same way you're just saying and realized that one, there's a lot of people that will have never seen it. We all
Yeah.
have tons of videos on our channels. I've got 1,500, and people aren't scrolling all the way
No,
back
they're
to
not
the
going to,
beginning on
no.
that sort of stuff. So they might not even know it exists. But the same way that you're getting back into Frank Marino, like you're hearing it for the first time, or it's just reigniting a passion in you, doing it a second time, you're going to hear, you've heard things differently or you've changed an opinion on something. I often say, my number one or my number two could easily flip on a different day, like in
yep,
an album ranking.
And there's that different day, right?
And there's that different
there's
Exactly.
the
day.
different.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm starting to rethink the whole thing and go ahead and do similar topic type things with a twist on it. I haven't started redoing any rankings yet, but I
I
have
haven't either. Yeah.
like ones from, that go back to the beginning of when I did my channel. My channel's almost 6 years old, and some of the bands have put out several new albums since then. So
Yeah.
fitting those in would already mix
See,
things up.
Brendan, sometimes there's a way to revisit stuff and not necessarily call it a re-ranking.
Mhm.
So, for instance, um, Styx has been big on our channels of late, and we've already done stuff together on Styx, right? I
Mhm.
saw Brendan rank the catalog very, very recently.
Mhm.
And I went onto the comment section of your video and I was like, Cyclorama all the way down that low. Come on, man. Right. So, but we've all reviewed the new Styx album. We've talked about Styx in a previous episode of What Is It, right? And what are we doing in July? We're
Mhm.
doing a whole
Really
episode
like
on
sticks.
Styx.
Yeah.
Again, we're not necessarily ranking the catalog, but we're not reviewing the new album, but we are going to talk about the whole catalog and which parts of it mean more to us
Yeah.
and what the music of Styx is all about. So here we have a way of revisiting Styx once again and the catalog in a different way with different people, and it'll be fresh and exciting for everybody and us.
Right.
Yes.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm
Yeah,
looking forward.
I can hardly wait to do that.
Yeah.
I can't wait either. And I feel like we've been talking about Styx so much of late, but I'm like, I don't care. I want to talk more
Well,
about
I don't. It's one of those bands that well, now there's certain eras that obviously I like more than others,
it. Yeah, yeah.
but I never get tired of it. I never get tired. I could listen to Grand Illusion or Pieces of Eight over and over again. I don't get tired of it. And I
And
love
yet,
talking
this will give us
sticks.
an opportunity to once again talk about Crash of the Crown and the Mission and the new
Yep.
album and Cyclorama or whatever,
Yes.
Yeah.
Right.
right? So it's all a good thing. Yeah.
Yeah. And one of the things that, positive that I have found about the channel, we talked about the sort of kind of negative aspect where sometimes we feel forced into reviewing something or moving on something to get it out there, and it feels a little bit like work when we don't want it to. But the other thing is, I had a period in the, I don't know, before I started the channel, so the mid 2000s or so, where I would buy an album just because I already had the other stuff from that artist and I might get it. It didn't really click with me or whatever, and I'd put it away on the shelf and I didn't visit it, and then maybe I get the next one. And then at a certain point, I just say, I'm not buying these anymore because I'm not listening to them.
Yeah.
But with the channel, it's also required me to give those albums closer listens and really invest in it the way that I did when I was a teenager, when I only had that one album and I listened to it over and over. And even if I bought something and it didn't click with me because I had physically purchased it and it was all the money that I had for another couple of weeks, you were going to try to really give it a listen. And so I've done that, and I've ended up making more connections with albums that I probably wouldn't have in the past had it not been for this channel. And then in discussion topics like this, Pete, I went back and re-listened to Cyclorama because in the previous What Is It episode, everybody seemed to like it but me. and I listened to it and I still didn't like it. It ranked where it did.
Well, honestly, that album took like 20 years for me to really
Yeah.
appreciate it. So, it could be that you need a little more
I
time.
need more time with it. Right, right. But still, it's being turned on to things through these collaborative episodes that we do, and hearing someone's new passion, or not new but new to us, passion for something on an album that we didn't really like, and saying, maybe I got to give that another go. And there's been so much positive stuff that's come out of it, but I've enjoyed that about having the collection again and being able to go back and pull it out. Because if I was like some people and sold my cyclorama because I didn't like it, I wouldn't yeah, I know. Grant's like, oh my God.
To rebuy it again?
Right,
God.
right. Who would want to do that? So having our music libraries and these collections allow us to go back and either reinvestigate and confirm we don't like something, or listen to it for the 10th time and suddenly it clicks out of the blue, out of no man's land, and we love it. So,
Well, I'm hoping at the Styx discussion that something will click and make me like Edge of the Century. I'm just crossing my fingers.
It's
In
got its
in the U
moments.
in the UK, it was not until 1978 that we understood what Styx was, and that was
Well,
when
they were never
yeah,
that big.
Pieces of Eight was
Go
the
watch
album.
yesterday's UK.
Yeah,
Well, I don't know when this is aired. Go
yeah,
watch the UK connection
yeah,
from Saturday because we
yeah,
talked about that quite a bit. So yeah.
yeah,
so there you go. Got a couple
But
left.
I mean that there's and not to derail the conversation, but Phil, we had some American bands who were huge here, did nothing over by you, and never toured by you. And
yeah,
it's like because they would, because obviously the cash cow is here in the States, it's so huge, so just
yeah.
relentlessly touring here. And you guys are probably over there. It's like, hello, come over here. Maybe we'll buy your records and go out to see you. But if you don't, we're going to ignore you, right? So
It was a rock disco, the band house, the one where Iron Maiden started in London, and the Neil Kay, the DJ, started this weekly chart of what he was playing, and it went into the Sounds music newspaper, and it was tracks from Pieces of Eight kept appearing in the top 20, and it was me and my mates were going, who the hell are Styx? Because Pieces of Eight wasn't out, and when it came out we bought it, and then of course we went back to Equinox, and back in time we went, but that was the year that they really broke through.
But isn't it true, at least from what I understand, that Journey is another one of those bands that never
Yeah,
took off, correct?
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
that is correct. Yeah, yeah. It
Kansas.
what
Damn it,
not un- not
Brendan.
un, yeah, not until Escape
Always
really.
ready.
Yeah, yeah, he is. That's
Well,
remarkable.
I had this pulled.
Tommy Shaw, Girls with Guns. Oh, I
Because,
have it right here.
oh, I had pulled it because this was something my older brothers played that got me into music, and we were on tangents and talking, and I was going to be ready to talk about it. So just happened to be sitting here.
Phil, did Tommy Shaw's Girls with Guns take over the UK? And did you rush right out and buy it when it came out, Phil?
I've got that. I've got that particular
Of course,
copy, but no,
of
it
course you
didn't.
do.
No, but I do have that. Yeah, I
Did
do. I
this
mean,
take over the UK? And did you rush out and buy this?
no, it didn't, and I no, I didn't know at all.
I'm
But
not going to show anything else.
Tommy Shaw was the most popular member of Styx in the UK, I would say.
He was my idol when I was a kid. Wanted to be like Tommy Shaw,
Yeah,
100%.
we kind
I
we kind of
swear to
looked
God, because I
kind
was
of looked
playing
through the
guitar.
songwriting credits and thought which of the songs we like the most, and it seems to be Tommy Shaw who seems to be the man behind most of them.
Yeah.
All
God, when I
yeah.
was a
You were
kid,
either a
I
Tommy
just
guy or you were a Dennis guy. That's the thing.
Yes,
I
yes,
always
yes,
wish
that's it.
the
Yeah,
label or the band would allow for a Dennis DeYoung, all songs that he did, like a hits collection, versus an all Tommy Shaw songs, hits. And the same thing with James Young, because they all sang so many songs, and but I like their style.
mm.
And I don't know if we'll ever see that, but I think it's a missed opportunity when bands with multiple singers and they don't put those collections of all that one artist together.
Yeah, but there's an opportunity there for a video, isn't there?
Yes, there is.
oh,
Yes.
Right.
And we maybe
write that down.
during the episode that we're actually talking about doing, we probably should revisit this because I think it's probably worthwhile to just really take a look at those popular songs that were written and sung by Dennis versus the Tommy ones, because there are a
Mm.
lot of people who are like and I'm not going one side or the other, I
No, no,
love
no.
both, who are like, well, Dennis was the one who had all their popular songs. That's not the case.
That is
Maybe
not the
the
case at
biggest
all.
ones, but it's not the
Yeah,
case at
yeah.
all. But yeah, they're both great. That's
Mm.
anyway.
Both great.
Yeah.
Right.
We will talk about that in the Sticks episode for
Yep.
sure.
That's right. Well, so on that note, guys, I hope you've enjoyed this episode here where we've talked about why we've got large music collections, but also how it is that we got to the point that we've got within these things. And of course, both, pluses and minuses and everything to having such big collections. But I think in the end of the day, everyone here at least would agree that having these collections are a positive thing. It holds, great memories for us, being able to pull stuff out on the walls whenever we want it, have that access to it. A lot of this stuff isn't available to stream, or it comes and goes in terms of licensing rights. And even CDs, vinyl, everything comes and goes in and out of print. So by
Very
having
quickly. Yeah.
physical copies, we have stuff like that right there. So that's, I think, an overarching understanding of why it is that we have the collections that we have. And appreciate you guys tuning in. Before we go, though, I'd like to go around and just see what you guys have coming up on your channel. So, Phil, if you want to kick things off.
I've got various review shows and ranking shows to encourage all of you out there to enlarge your music collections as best way that I can. Also,
Not that we're pushing you to do so, but,
no, no, at all. It's always optional. Always
yeah.
Right.
optional.
All right, cool. And Pete, what do you have coming up?
Well, we've got part 2 of the UK Connection episode, which hopefully you guys checked out. If you haven't, go check it out. That aired last Saturday, about UK and US bands who were huge in one country, but that success didn't translate over across the pond. So
All right.
it wound up being a 2-part episode because there's just way too much to talk about, and it was a really great conversation. So that's coming up this week.
Great.
Another episode of Ranking the Album. We talked about them in
There.
depth. Yes, of course. So if you're interested at all in why Slade and Status Quo and Styx and Grand Funk Railroad and
Mm.
Kansas and why the
Yeah.
success didn't translate, we dive into that big time. And another episode of Ranking the Albums. Martin Popoff and I are back with another episode of albums that should have been huge by bands that are very, very notable but weren't. So all that's coming up this week on SOT.
Cool. All right, Grant, what do you got?
Monday night at 8 p.m. Eastern time. We're back with the big panel. We're doing our top 10 songs from 1992. And as it keeps going, ladies and gentlemen, it gets harder and harder. I don't know how far we're going to be able to go, but we're going to do 1992 on Monday. And then Rand's coming back. We're going to look at Brian Wilson. The Slade series will continue. Damn, it's all kinds of stuff coming up.
That's great. Loving all that sort of stuff. So I've been in a big sort of album review thing. I just did the new Bruce Springsteen box set, The Lost Albums. There was also a one disc selections from, which I thought was distinct enough that I wanted to review that as well. And Motorhead, the Manicore tapes, did a review on that as well. So I got all those different things coming up across not only my channel, but everyone else's here. So certainly head out and visit Phil Aston on Now Spinning Magazine, Pete Pardo on Sea of Tranquility, or Grant on either The Contrarians or Grant's Rock Warehouse. But thank you all for tuning in. Really appreciate it. And we'll see you next time.
Thank you.
Balloons.
Everybody.